Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Golden Shower Sunday stream. It's been a month. I took June off. So we're here. We're here today with Hex, as always.
What up? Me and Jess don't hate each other anymore, so we're back. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, we took a break. He went and fucked so many other podcasters in the meantime, but he came back to me. No, just kidding. We're here with Mr. Kyle, a returning guest and friend of the FMU. You've been on all the shows. I love it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, well, I'm doing good and I'm stoked to be back. I guess the only thing I got to ask is, were the other podcasters bigger than FM? Because this is what they keep saying that she's a tranny, but I don't know, man.
I'm the biggest. Kind of on that topic, right before we jumped on live, I feel like we could just continue that conversation and just to catch people up. All of a sudden, the convo went really deep about how all the people who give relationship advice basically are just on the fucking fringes. Either, like you said, say everybody should be poly or everybody has to be trad. So I don't know. You were spitting fire there for a minute. So
yeah, well, you know what? This has been a topic that's always been very, very interesting and fascinating to me because for those who don't know, I used to be a fat kid, right? And I was saying, even before that I'm kind of on a bulk now. So we can get into that a little bit later if we want to. But the intersexual dynamics conversation is very, very interesting because this is how we interact with the opposite sex, which generally is kind of what we're put on the planet to do, right? I heard Elliot Hall say this once, and he said, we eat, we fuck, and we shit, and we feel bad about it. And that's really, really true. Because anytime you have a conversation about any of that, then you kind of load it with feeling bad about it. But I mean, this is part of the human experience, right? Where if you're a dude, you want to have sex, right? And then if you're a woman, you do too, but you want to have sex with the highest quality guy. And this is the part that typically the trads leave out, that women do have genuine desire. And if they can get a guy that they're genuinely attracted to and that's going to give them, the kid, and they're going to have the 3 6s, right? 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, and 6-pack abs, they're going to get that guy. But in today's world,
I thought it was over 6 inches. I thought it was 6 inches or over.
Well, okay, so we may have 4 6s. So over 6-inch dick, 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, and 6-pack abs. So okay, so we have 4 6s. If a woman can get a guy like that, then they would love that. But, now that we have a globalized sexual marketplace, the guys who aren't quite as, who don't hit those 4 6s, they're for the most part invisible until women kind of exhausted their sexual marketplace value. So a woman when she's 23, when you look at the ages of 20 to 90 years old, men monolithically will say that women in their early 20s are the most attractive, right? Whereas women are a little bit more spread out where they don't really care, right? That they're more looking for specific features about a guy, not just if he looks good. That plays a part, but there's more to it than that. Right. So now we have this joke where women in their early 20s kind of ride the cock carousel, where they're going to go experience all the dudes. They want to experience all the dicks and, do all that kind of stuff. And then when they get to their late 30s, this is where women all of a sudden always become religious. And now, I did all this stuff in my early 20s, but now I want to settle down. So I always tell guys, if you're ever a woman that tells you I've had my fun and now I want to settle down, run, because that means that she had all the wild, crazy sex, hanging from the chandeliers and blowing the dude in the back of his 2008 Subaru. You're not going to get that anymore. So whenever you have a woman that says that, just run the fuck away.
She's probably had so many negative sexual experiences at that point by hooking up so much. She doesn't even fucking like sex anymore.
Well, yeah. And not only that, there's also the conversation of you're not going to get that experience. And the impact that those experiences may have had on her are going to now alter the way that she looks at you and how well you're going to be able to dick her down, right? So right. It's just so funny because I see these people Cassandra Fairbanks is one of these people who was doing bondage porn, and now she's a booker on Tim Cass, and now she's pontificating about, all you degenerates should straighten up, and we need a president who's gonna bring greatness back to this country. It's listen, you were sitting there fucking wrapping your tits with towels and shit and sending it to people for $20. Don't pontificate to me. You could say, hey, I've changed my mind and this is the way I'm going, and I've seen the light of Jesus. That's fine, but don't act like you're so above everybody else now because you were doing the same shit that you're now advocating against. And it just drives me nuts to see people
It's the
who
way they
want to
say
act
it, too.
sanctimonious.
Sometimes, because sometimes it's like you can kind of give advice without, because when people are like, well, I did that, so you should never be able to do that in any way, shape, or form. It's like, instead of being like, hey, let's be realistic about it, or, like, this is what, but like people say it in such a harsh tone like that. It's like, no, bitch, you were out there being quite crazy too. Like, shut up.
Right. It's the whole sanctimonious act where, I'm holier than thou. It's like, no, well, you know what? People have sexual desires. And that's not to say you should like go one way or the other. It's okay to go out and have sex and enjoy other people. And this is what, like a lot of the quote unquote red pill guys are going to say, is that you should spin plates, right? And I did this a lot in my early 20s, where you date a lot of different people to figure out not only how to socialize properly with people, but to find what you like. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not to say you should go out and fuck everything that walks. If you want to do that, okay, that's fine. Now, as a woman, it's going to be a little bit different, because you may once again be impacted by a guy who is going to give you a good sexual experience. You may be very, very attached to that guy, and it's going to make it harder for you to bond with somebody down the road. That's not monolithic amongst women, but that's, going to be kind of the situation there. As a guy, you're able to separate that sexual experience from emotion and being bonded to that person a lot more than a woman would. So like, if you're a guy, you can go
for life, ladies. It's not to be negative, and not that, like you said, not everybody's always the same all the time. It's just kind of overall. Yeah, let's just face it.
Yeah, well, and this is where I get frustrated with trads, that they're saying like, you have to just pray at the altar of Jesus and abstain. Like, that's not realistic anymore. I'm sorry. You're not going to get your virgin wife who hasn't had sex with anybody. Like, my wife has had sex with more people than just me. It's not a very high number at all. But clearly I made an impact, and that's why she's with me, and that's why we got married, and we enjoy having sex with each other. There's nothing wrong with that. And like the trads pretty much are going to tell you that like you should just, it's basically just for recreation, right? Or procreating. I'm sorry. Yeah, not recreation. Like, you can enjoy having sex with your wife or having sex with people who aren't your wife. That's okay too. So I just get so frustrated with the conversation, because it's like you're either getting complete and total sanctimony or complete and total degeneracy. And like, you can do whatever you find to be enjoyable and meaningful for you. And it's not going to be a marriage with a picket fence and a golden retriever for absolutely everybody. And that's okay. It's just like the binary extremes that most people go to just drives me absolutely nuts. And now everybody wants to dip their toe into relationship stuff because it's popular. But now the problem is that you have pick-me's like this stupid Pearl who's coming out, and she'll dunk on women all day as a pick-me. And she doesn't care about the sincere plight of men.
She's just doing it for shares. She gets the rate shares. It's just for that, literally. Yeah. And it works. Even people in our corner stop sharing her shit all the time. Like,
yeah,
that's why she does it.
I was typing up a tweet today, and I'm like, not going to do it. I'm not going to share her stuff. But so like, kind of going back to knocking trads, is that they don't want men to be better men for themselves, and so that way they can improve their own lives. They want men to be better men, so that way they can fucking just give women a better life. Which, okay, if that's your goal, you want to have a family and stuff, whatever. But like, I want to pull the gun out of men's mouths, right? That's what the red pill, quote unquote, as in like intersexual dynamics and understanding women's and men's nature. Also, the red pill is, when we're referring to it in like the manosphere sense, is just analyzing behaviors. It's a praxeology. It's not an ideology. It's not a political identity. It's a praxeology. We're giving you the tools to make yourself a better man. Basically positive male identity and male sexual strategy. That's what that's focused on. And how you use that, it's like fire. You can burn your house down, or you can heat your home, or you could go set your neighbor's house on fire. What do you want to do with it? I'm not here to tell you to go fuck 60 women and make six figures, or, go get your trad wife. I just want people to have the information, and they can make the decision themselves. Anybody that's telling you things is normally trying to sell you something, right? Yep. My goal with everything I do with the podcast, with what I'm doing here, is just give you the information. What you do with it from there is completely on you, and don't tell anybody that I told you to do it, because that's all on you.
I found out the whole red pill manosphere thing at this point. It's just a big old grift, because you go on Twitter and you see people giving whatever advice, and then right under that, it's like, sign up for my newsletter, buy my book or whatever, and it's like, holy shit.
Well, a lot of it's like funnel marketing, right? And that's what Twitter's great for. Is just that, like, if you could throw something out there to get a shit ton of engagement, then people are going to click on your stuff, and then you're going to see, oh, this is what this person is about. That's kind of what it is, unfortunately. And like now in the current day, I had somebody knock me for posting shirtless pictures. I'm like, well, this is like the way you have to get engagement, right? Posting fuck trophies for clout, which that's kind of what Matt Walsh does. Yeah. That was one of my favorite. I had Ryan Stone on my show, and he was the guy who he quote tweeted Matt Walsh with a picture of his twins, and all he said was posting the fuck trophies for clout. And that's really what it is. You're showing off your kids so that way people will click on it and give you a thumbs up, and then go over to Daily Wire and sign up for all the dings, right? If you catch my drift. But like that's the other annoying thing about traditionally minded people is that they're going to show off their kids for the world because look at my man scorecard. Like, I'm a high value man because I have all these fuck trophies. Okay, well, how much, how many man points is your fuck trophy worth per thing? Right. And I don't think they're doing it for nefarious purposes, but like the objective is that I'm going to show you my kids so that way you admire me. And I'm signaling to my in group, and I'm doing that by showing off my kids to you. Like, oh, look how many kids I have, and look how great of a guy I am because of my kids. Like, your kids didn't ask to be shared everywhere online.
Right.
So, I don't necessarily have like a personal issue with it, but that's what they're doing. They're doing that so that way they can get back pats, and they're the stand-up man of their community.
Yeah, it's the same way too, where they're just like when the people are on the fringes too, like the extreme poly people and all this stuff. Like half of them, they're just talking about it because they're insecure about it. They're talking about it and telling other people to do it because they're insecure about it. It's like. And so, like, we are all so individual. This is like, I never took like relationship advice, and I never I really don't give it on like way, especially not unsolicited, right? It's because it's like there is no one who could live my life exactly the way I did it, or could be in the relationship I'm in. Like, it's so individual how you make things work because not only is there the sexual aspect, now you're living with someone, now you're like wanting to spend the rest of your life with this person. What's the end of life going to be like? There's so much to think about, and it's so individual. Hey, Nina in the chat.
Well, and that's part of the reason why I really try to avoid like anecdotes, like saying, oh, well, look, I did this and this is why my wife is with me now, because like that means fuck all for everybody else. Right. And when it comes to nutrition stuff, if you avoid artificial sweeteners, which is something else that I've been going to bat with people over the past weekend, if you avoid them because maybe they don't sit right with your gut, or you think they taste like shit, fine. But don't sit here and say, oh, you're going to die if you have artificial sweeteners, and this is going to completely rot your gut, or, your testicles are going to fall out of your asshole if you drink one Diet Coke. Like, the data doesn't support that. Read the actual fucking science. Listen to people who are more educated than you on this stuff. Just because it's a platitude to say that aspartame gives you cancer doesn't make it true. Like, you actually have to read something. Like, and if you want to avoid, that's fine. But it's also funny that a lot of these people who tell you, oh, aspartame is going to give you cancer, they're like downing a 6-pack of beer every single night, which alcohol is a controlled poison. I drink alcohol. I understand the risks that are associated with it, and that's fine. But like these people who wave their hands about aspartame having like a very, very slight correlation in some piss poor done studies or that are going to give you cancer, they're, like I said, the same ones that are going to drink a 6-pack of Miller High Life or something like that. And then like pick one, because alcohol is a lot worse for you than aspartame.
Aspartame,
Aspartame, yeah.
No, but then there's also like what you're doing. This is why there is a difference between when you say something about relationships, in my opinion. I'm just gonna give my opinion on you.
Sure.
So like the way you do it, you're kind of trying to teach. You're not just saying this. You're kind of trying to teach us like deeper meaning of, hey, look into it. Don't just say good, bad. Like especially with the food stuff, like because people have been trained sugar bad, everything just bad, good, bad, good, and there's like. As you've hit before, like it's almost an eating disorder to think of food as good and bad in its own right, and just like demoralize it, right? So it's like the way you're doing it, like and Allison, over the Rebel chats, like Kyle asking people to read and shit. What the
fuck? How dare you?
Yeah.
Speaking of Alice, just to go on a quick tangent real quick, I was hanging out with her and Adam over the weekend, and this morning she was like, she knew that you were coming on, she had said, "I hope he says fuck trophy again," and there you go.
Yes. I have to credit Rhinestone for that because he was the one that posted that, and ever since then, that's become one of my favorite phrases. I do think saying "fuck trophy" is pretty funny, and I can't wait for the day that I knock up my wife and I can finally start telling people, "Yes, I have my own fuck trophy." I'm like full on ready for this, but no, I appreciate that. That's definitely what I try to do. Is like I said earlier, give people the information and let them make their own decisions, and I go to bats with people all the time because, sugar's a poison. And it's like, no, if you eat like an asshole and the only thing you're eating is sugar and seed oils, then yes, you're probably not going to be very healthy, but nobody does that. Right. And I shared the FDA recommendations. And then somebody said, "Oh, you trust the FDA?" Listen, motherfucker, come on. In order to actually
hate those fucking pedantic freaks. They make me so mad with that shit.
Oh yeah, it's just a little bullshit that they want to pick out. But in order to get to toxic levels of aspartame, you would have to drink 45 Diet Cokes a day. This is like the same people who say, don't eat almonds because there's, cyanide in almonds. You would have to eat like 500 almonds in a single sitting to get to a lethal amount. Like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. They just throw the shit out because people are like, "Oh my God, there's cyanide in apples." Well, yeah, if you eat the whole fucking tree, yeah. But who's doing that? Who is eating a whole fucking bag of almonds in one sitting? Nobody does this stuff. I just, people get so pedantic about this stuff, and it just drives me fucking nuts because, like you were saying earlier, people literally get eating disorders over this shit because they'll have like one little blueberry. I used to freak out about this in like carnivore groups when I was doing the carnivore diet. They would eat. So a carnivore person's day would go like this, right? They put a whole stick of butter in their coffee, and for breakfast they have 62 eggs and the fattiest piece of brisket that they can find, and then for lunch they have 2 ribeye steaks drowned in butter, and then they don't eat for 3 days, and then like finally that 3-day fast is over, and then they have like 1 blueberry, and then they had the same meal with like 24 eggs and 3 ribeyes and 2 pounds of ground beef, and then they gain a pound, and they had a blueberry that day, and like, "Oh my God, the blueberry made me gain a pound." It's like, no, you fucking moron. You had 6,000 calories of fucking meat. Of course you gained a pound. Jesus Christ. Like, this is literally how some people think because they're trained to think, oh, carbs are bad. No, if you manage your intake and you're not a fucking retard about the stuff you eat, you're going to be fine. Like, and this is what leads to like disinhibition. And this is what leads to binging, right? Where people have this black and white mentality where as soon as they have, seed oil, sugars, carbs, or for the people who used to be fat phobic, they have one little thing of fat, then all of a sudden it's just off to the races, right? I already fucked up my diet, so fuck it. Let's, give me the piece of cheesecake, give me the ice cream, give me the milkshake, just give me whatever. And then they feel horrible afterwards because they just binged on all the stuff that they thought was bad because, it was, fuck it, I'm already off the diet, so might as well just fully engage. Like, you don't have to do that. You can reasonably have some sugar. You can reasonably have some seed oils. You can reasonably have some food that's quote unquote bad for you, and you're going to be fine just as long as you don't have all of it. And kind of to the seed oil point too. I mean, there's so many studies done on this stuff now. Like, seed oils are actually cardioprotective. There was a study done, I think it was a analysis in a hospital, and what they found is that blood lipids over the course of a certain period, when compared to saturated fat with like canola oil, the people who ate more canola oil versus saturated fat actually had lower incidence of heart disease than the people who had more saturated fat. And it's not to say you shouldn't have saturated fat, but just understand the risk. If you do raise your LDL because all you're eating is saturated fat, then you may be at a higher risk of a cardiovascular event. And that's very, very individual, because the way that your body responds to LDL and saturated fat is going to be different from person to person to person.
Right. Well,
so I know there's a lot.
people focus on that, the Uber focusing on that, then they don't focus on their own fucking body and how their body reacts like in other ways. I feel like I can, last night I ate a fucking burger at midnight. You know what I mean? But it's like, I know I can. I still have fucking abs. There's just, you don't, like, people make bad good, and sometimes like you're fucking hungry for a burger, so why the fuck would you moralize that? Like, have the burger, maybe and then you won't be thinking about it, obsessing about it, especially on the like. People will seriously come to my posts and like see what I'm eating if I post a picture and they're like, ew, carbs. And I'm just like, you fucking moron. Like after seeing me, you're like, that's what you're gonna say? Like, that's just people are dumb.
Adam got me a Euro this morning.
Ooh. Well, yeah, and you had donut. Now I wanted a donut. Although I think I had a donut last night too. I might have.
Nah, well, you know, what are you gonna do? Yeah, it's so funny to hear people just blame carbs monolithically. Like, where are all the people who just cannot stop eating apples and getting fat? If you could show me a person who cannot stop eating fruit and it's causing them to get fat, I'll admit I'm wrong, but I've never seen anybody sitting there just stuffing mangoes and oranges and blueberries in their face, just copiously pouring out at the sides. Like, this shit doesn't happen. And a lot of the hyperpalatable foods actually have more calories from fat than they do of carbohydrates. And if you think about the foods that are really, really easy to overconsume, think about like almonds, macadamia nuts, cashews. Those actually have more calories from fat than they do of carbohydrates. And it's not to say that you shouldn't consume fats, because those are good sources of fats. But I mean, it's so easy to eat 1,000 calories of nuts, especially if it's like honey roasted cashews. I fucking love them. I can't keep them anywhere near me.
Yeah, like anytime a nut is good, like the cinnamon ones. You ever those like cinnamon coated kind of nuts and stuff? Oh. I'm sure that's even better because that's probably pure butter that it's cooked in to coat it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's enjoyable, but like I said, if that's your whole diet, probably not optimal. But nobody's sitting there just eating honey roasted cashews all day every day. Yeah, I like this point a lot, because the way that you're going to respond to certain stuff, each person's gonna be a little bit individual. Where like I used to not, Adam FM loves nuts. I was going to make a comment about that, but I'm glad you got to.
You beat ya. You beat ya.
There's the way that everyone's going to respond to a diet is going to be completely different person to person to person. I used to not handle fibers very well. So I think after going on the carnivore diet and then kind of reintroducing foods, my gut seems to handle that a little bit better. And then even over time, shit's going to change where you may not tolerate fats anymore. Like, just fucking listen to your body. If you're binging a lot, then maybe it's time to consider that maybe you should just eat a little bit more. This was kind of the reason why I said, all right, it's time for me to bulk. I wasn't like binging or anything like that, but I noticed that me trying to stay as lean as I was struggling. And there were some days where like, I'm not going to mark in this little piece of chocolate that I have, or, if there's a piece of candy on the counter, I'll have it. And it wasn't like a huge thing, but it's just things that you notice over time. And you're like, all right, well, maybe it's time to kind of change the way that we're doing shit. So this week, I fucking enjoyed myself. My wife and I went out and had ice cream. We went to the Cheesecake Factory. I had a piece of cheesecake. Like, I'm not pouring out at the sides. I'm not overweight. I'm not unhealthy. We enjoyed, and that's okay.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, but then they moralize it too. It's like, God, just let people enjoy things.
Right.
I'm lucky enough to have that once every month where my body's like, bitch, you need to fucking eat. You need to eat right the fuck now. Like, you need to like eat more than you've been doing. Because I know I naturally, like, the whole intermittent fasting shit always made me laugh, because I kind of naturally just would eat when I'm hungry in a way, and that wasn't always, but it's because I don't have kids and stuff too that just made it so I can always eat whenever I wanted in life, but yeah, then my body's like, no, we need a little more body fat, honey, so let's go. And those are great weeks, and I kind of like that other times too, just for the hell of it,
Well, clearly your genetics are so that you can stay as lean as you are, because, as far as I know, you're not out there.
Any sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is just the way that some people are wired. Where like I was a heavy set guy for quite a long time. And I think the theory is, I don't know if they've ever proven this, but there's this theory called the body fat set point theory. So it's almost like a thermostat, right? So wherever your body fat is, if you've been there for quite a while, then your body's going to kind of settle there. And like, you're going to have to try pretty hard to like bump it up, and you're going to have to try pretty hard to bump it down. No, it's not like energy balance doesn't matter in this situation, but your body's just going to kind of settle in somewhere. So like for me right now, about 190 pounds is right where my body will kind of default to no matter what. And if I want to get real lean, then I'm going to have to spend, a little bit more time dieting and doing a little bit more exercise to make sure that I bring it down. If I want to bulk, then I'm going to have to just not stuff down calories, but I'm gonna have to eat a little bit more than I normally do. So, and this is kind of judged by not only like your body fat cells, but it's also judged by like your levels of leptin and ghrelin. So like when you get to a certain point where you're getting leaner than your body would like you, then your hunger is going to start to increase because your body, you're kind of out of that thermostat range where it's going to want you to start to gain a little bit more weight. Now, if you want to, like I said, increase weight, then you're just going to have to eat a little bit more. Now, one thing that can happen, and I think they've observed this in mice, is that when you, let's say, go on a diet and you lose a bunch of weight, what can happen is that if you were to regain a lot of weight really, really fast, then your fat cells can do what's called fat cell hyperplasia, which is where the fat cells separate. You can actually overshoot and gain more weight than you initially lost. So like, let's say you were 230 pounds at one point, then you go all the way down to 180, and then you gain all that weight back. Well, what can typically happen is that you'll gain more fat cells and you may actually get heavier than you were initially because the amount of fat cells that you had is now more than it was.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, if you're just doing something changing drastic in your body, I mean, you get fucking stretch marks because your skin gets all, like there's reactions to all your cells like that. Shannon says you're breaking our brains today with all this. She also said the weight looks good on you before when you were talking about that.
Oh, well, I try. Yeah. If you see me at 250 pounds, I was a pretty husky boy, but I mean, I met my wife then, and I hate to say that she's responsible for me losing weight, but at the same time, she was the one that kind of put it in my mind that, nutrition kind of plays a factor because she had to eat, well, she has celiac, right? Which is basically just like an allergy to gluten. And I remember she texted me and said like, hey, I think I'm going to start eating gluten free because like I had a burger from Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that when she was working her line painting job. And like, it really didn't sit well with me. And then I remember saying like, oh, well, I'll try it too. And like, I didn't stick to it at all. And then one day I finally went on the carnivore diet and then I lost, all the weight. And I was like, oh, so like what you put in your body actually matters to how you look, how you feel, and how you perform. Who the fuck would have thought?
You are what you eat.
Yeah. To a degree, yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess if there's not the innate knowledge of that in a person, I don't know how we all kind of reach those. Some people never reach those conclusions that, hey, I don't know how you fix that overall in a society. Just being good examples, that's the best way.
Right. Well, we don't have in the U.S. a weight loss problem. We have more of a weight maintenance problem. And losing weight isn't like an issue of necessarily like just eating less and calorie restriction. It is obviously because like you have to eat less than you expend in a day to lose weight, but like there are behaviors that come with that. Like the reason why I'm able to maintain where I am now is because I do a lot of cardio, right? I take my dogs for anywhere from like a 25-minute to a 45-minute walk every single morning. I exercise 4 days a week and I do try to get a reasonable amount of protein every single day. People don't, I think the problem is just people don't understand the behaviors, and it's a lot harder to change somebody's behavior than it is to change their diet because like this, you spend a lifetime with the behaviors that got you to be as big as you are. So it may take you quite a while to adjust behaviors to get to somewhere else where you haven't been.
Right. Well, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
That really is the truest fucking thing in life. So. Oh, good. We hit that. I was going to say, what else could we talk about with Twitter? What did you guys have with Twitter yesterday?
I didn't get booted off, surprisingly. My shit didn't fuck up until today. Like, I think literally right before we got on here, I was finally able to like tweet again. I think I was getting ready to leave because I was going to go get, I was getting my wife and I lunch and I was doing some grocery shopping. And I think I went to go tweet something out. And then all of a sudden it just said like, can't send tweet at this time. Or I was trying to message somebody back and said, can't do this. It's like, well, what the fuck? Like, did I get banned or something? And like my profile kept loading. I'm like, okay, so clearly everything's okay. And then I went over to my, my alt and I was able to tweet and shit. I'm like, so what the fuck did I do on my main? Like, I don't recall doing anything fucked up. Somebody did tell me a couple days ago. I think I said the reason why conservatives lose is because they're not willing to put a gun in Upchurch or Luke Bryan's mouth and tell them quit playing music to win their side of the culture war. And somebody's like, you should delete this. And like, there was a little part in my brain that I'm like, maybe I should. But I'm like, you know what? I didn't make any active call to violence. And I've said shit like that before. So,
Right.
but no, thankfully, everything's good. And Elon tweeted out saying that like you can only view 600 tweets a day if you're not a pleb, or no, if you are a pleb, which I am part of the pleb class.
Web gang.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so weird for me yesterday. Although I saw some of the explanations, like were so what was happening to me yesterday is none of my posts would pull up, and someone was saying it was like asking to see the content like a million times a second with DDS, something like that. I don't know how that works, but like so, and that's how I was doing. So like I could make posts, so other people were seeing my posts, but like they could reply, but I couldn't see what they were replying to, and I couldn't see anyone's timelines or anything. So I was just like, all right. No big deal, but it's just funny. I always love when there's like a group sesh about like what's going on Twitter, man. Like, because we're all there, like we all are. Just funny. Yeah. Oh, and then someone was I was on with Mountain Goat the other day, and he brought up the Data Services Act. Had you guys looked into any of that at all?
No, actually.
So there's this thing. It happened over in the EU, I believe. The EU basically got Twitter to sign this Data Services Act thing with them, and it kind of seemed a little weird. Like it was.
Yeah, I got pulled up here. Actually, yeah, the Digital Services Act and the Digital Market Act, DMA, form a single set of rules that apply across the whole EU. They have two main goals. One, to create a safer digital space in which the fundamental rights of all users of digital services are protected. And two, to establish a level playing field to foster innovation, growth, competitiveness, both in the European single market and globally. Yeah, that's pretty strange. I can keep reading, but if you guys have thoughts on that, that's a really like ambiguous thing.
They like made this whole pomp and circumstance how Twitter and them were working together and like all this. And I was like, okay.
I'll put it in the private chat if you want to open that up.
Hey, Marge. Hey, everyone in the chat. I've been paying attention to you, chat. I haven't been saying much, but thanks everyone for being here. Adub, Shannon, Alice, Buxom. I know Ami was here. Nina, Provo, Adam, Marge. Now, I'm sure if anyone has any nutrition questions, Kyle would probably love to try and answer them too.
Try. Keyword is try. Don't give me too much credit. That Digital Services Act. How are you supposed to like guarantee rights on the internet? Like, I think the main right that everybody would be concerned with is like freedom of speech, but that even gets a little tricky because like, remember when Elon tweeted out, I think he said, you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Okay, well, we're in like this real gray area because if you're being artificially either like boosted or demoted, then do you really have free speech? Like if you look at, I'm sure any of one of our Twitters, you'll see that the views on our tweets are nowhere near proportionate to the amount of followers that we have, unless you get like a banger that goes viral or whatever. But like I look at most of my tweets, some of them will get like not even 100 views. I'm like, okay, well I have over 2,000 followers, so why is it that not even like 1/20th of them see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do have Twitter Blue, but my shit was broke yesterday, and I wonder too if it was because I just changed my profile picture, so it's like it takes your blue check mark away for a minute if you got the Twitter Blue. So I'm not check marked at the moment, so maybe that's why I messed up. I don't know.
You joined the pleb class again briefly.
I did.
Do you think it's worth it? Because I'm considering it.
I mean, my accounts have been so weird for so long, and they got randomly, some got big, and so so it's like I don't know if there's been a difference or not. I'm still my thing is I engage in schizo posts, and I have for 3 years straight. So like I just feel like I get proportional amount of engagement and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to say I've copied your strategy, but I remember you told me like, how the fuck do you grow Twitter? Because I'm like a retard. I can't figure this shit out. So much like you, Spurg posts a little bit in the morning, and then throughout the day, if I see something I want to comment on, I will. But maybe my problem is that like weekends, I'm not that active because the weekdays I'm insanely busy, and then weekends are like the only time that my wife and I get to spend together, other than Sundays, because my wife works on Sundays. So like if there's anything going on Saturday, I'm completely out of the loop. And I find that like a lot of the time there's usually something important that happens on Saturday, and I'll look through Twitter, I'll see everybody talking about it. I'm like, well, there goes my chance to have an opinion on, the thing. There's my chance to wave my NPC flag.
Or how you grow your Twitter is you be kind of like not that a kind of homely girl, and you just dunk on women and say super crazy and like trad shit, and that'll grow your account like crazy. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, well, kind of back to like the Manosphere and Red Pill stuff is that the sad part is that you do have good guys doing good work in there who legitimately want to just give men information to help them in their relationship and make their lives better, so that way they don't hate women or become incels, which is like just the dumbest shit in the world. But like just helping guys become better guys so they can go out and get the women that they want. Like that's not a bad thing if you're teaching guys to become better with women, so that way they can, give themselves and the women that they choose to be with better lives. But now you have people like Pearl, Sneeko, Destiny, who want to come in and basically just take a shit on the table and then leave it up to other people to clean it up. And now the whole space, now it gets disregarded because it's now just people using it to pat themselves on the back. And this is why I almost never use the terminology red pill, because essentially what people mean by red pill or blue pill is that red pill is like a container word, right? Where it's they throw it out there and then you're supposed to fill it with your hopes and dreams. So anytime that anybody ever says they're red pilled, they're basically just trying to pat themselves on the back. And then if you're red pilled too, by their definition, then once again, it's because you agree with me, therefore you're red pilled. And if you disagree with me, then you're blue pilled. So like, I just hate that whole thing because like I said, it becomes a container word and people just use it to boost themselves up and lower other people. So it's like useless.
It is, and it's like that's why it's like. I mean, I get baited for plenty of stuff too, but sometimes I'm like, really, that's the stuff we get baited for. I loved when Dennis was doing it the other day because I helped him get one of the ideas that's on the post. I've made this post before, but I admit it was if you use tampons, you are literally cucking your husband. He posted. I've made that post before, but it never went anywhere. So I asked him to do it. They did it. It was just funny because he was doing more posts. I mean, all the posts of him making fun of her were like that. So
yeah, he got me with the Pearl troll. I forget what it's like a real wife works 80 hours a week and pleases her husband. And I said, okay, so delete your account. And like it's funny because I said like posting my L's after that. And everybody liked that tweet and nobody liked the one up above. It was like, all right, I got. I'll be the first one to admit when I fuck up. And like, I don't know, man. I hate other people that aren't humane.
Well, it's just sad that like things are so fucking ridiculous that you would think someone would say some of that shit.
I got by the Erica Mersch account when that affirmative, what was it, the affirmative action thing that happened? Yeah, they got me good with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I have her account blocked because it's not even a real person. That's literally just like an engagement broker. And I know I throw that term out there a lot, but like when I say engagement broker, these are people who will literally just post videos or say stuff that they know is going to get to just trigger one side or the other. So like you think about Elijah Schaefer, Ian Miles Chong, Tim Pool to a degree, Erica Mersch,
Isabella
Riley. She just says retarded shit just to get people to react. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like Twitter is all about being as retarded as you can to just get attention. And like my goal with Twitter is funnel marketing, right? Where I'm going to say the most retarded shit possible while still maintaining a degree of integrity to get people's eyes on my stuff. So that way I can give them better information or, just try to inform people more. But this isn't what a lot of people do. They're just going to say shit to get you in their little engagement mill and put themselves in your algorithm and just keep you pissed off and retweeting their stuff or quote tweeting their stuff. So I've taken the liberty to start blocking people who just say dumb shit all the time. That's just there to piss you off and ruin your day. Like don't allow that shit into your fucking mind. Just get the fuck out of here. If you're constantly quote tweeting dicks in front of kids or, the trans parades or they want you dead, then like you need some help. We have like a term for people who think that everybody wants them dead, and it's not libertarian, it's not right winger, it's called schizophrenic. And you sound schizophrenic when you're sitting there thinking that everybody that disagrees with you is a demon or wants you dead. Like, shut the fuck up. Go touch grass. Go hang out with people that actually like mean something to you, and that may disagree with you on some shit. They don't want you dead. They don't think you're a demon. They don't think you're a Nazi. They're just other people who look at the world a little bit differently than you, and that's perfectly fine.
I just gotta put it in the chat to be a fun schizo. Don't be a like negative schizo.
Yeah, man, be healthily paranoid. Is that the cops coming for you after you just hit a joint? Who knows? But you should run anyways.
That was too funny. Yeah, I was just gonna say something else after what you were saying with blocking them.
Engagement brokers.
Yeah. Oh, and just kind of like on my like woo-woo mommy level too. Like I really do feel like Twitter is the magic spell, or it's like where people put the magic spells out there. Propaganda. I'll call it propaganda, right? And that's like that. And these rage shit is part of it. I swear. I maybe I'm crazy, but like I swear they're all more interconnected than we think. A lot of them on knowing who to trigger, when to trigger, and being told when to trigger. Because right now I've been watching all the politicians in my state that are hired by Act Blue, or Act Blue helps them get elected. And every single one, they all post the same kind of things at the same time. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I know that's what's going on in some of these other spheres too. It's the same shadowy world. And I get why they're doing it, because Twitter is the least used, but like everything feeds off of Twitter. Like there is magic in Twitter for some reason, because
it's funnel marketing.
Yeah, like it's where it starts and then goes out. So I understand why they do this stuff there too. And I've always tried to just like do my own, but I don't know. I can't be fake, because there's even other people who aren't necessarily like huge accounts, but you can tell they go to trending, see what people are talking about, and then they always just talk about that shit to get like a little engagement, and like no real original thoughts ever. It's just like that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I'm kind of glad to say I don't think I've ever really browsed trending. I've seen other people talk about it, but I like almost never ever go there. And maybe that's why I don't get a lot of follows and attention and shit like that. Like I think I have decent engagement, but like I don't know. I think just like being on the current thing all the time, like I don't know, that's fucking exhausting. Yeah. Like I can't keep up with all this shit. Like I'm pretty good at keeping up with foreign policy stuff and like a lot of the health research and some of the day-to-day political stuff, but like that's fucking hard as it is. Like I want to be happy at some point, and I don't think you can be happy and joyful if you're just constantly fucking doom scrolling all day. And I got a busy fucking job. I fix cars for a living, and I'm not paid to stand around at my job. I have to be working on something. So it's not exactly complimentary of my job for me to sit there and doom scroll on trending and, you know, have an opinion on absolutely everything. And you know what? There's some shit I just don't fucking know. There's a lot of shit I just don't fucking know. So you know what? My opinion doesn't mean diddly dick, and no one's going to benefit from it anyways.
Yeah. And sometimes like this is just in life, they're like, if you hang out with someone who's constantly giving their take on everything you say, it's fucking annoying. Like, no one likes that person. They're always interrupting conversations with their take. And it's like, that wasn't even how the conversation was flowing, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of when people do that all the time, I'm always like, oh Lord, do that. They probably do that all the time. And I just don't, I don't even give a fuck about my own takes half the time. Like, so.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with a bunch of boomer cons who will just like bust into the room and then they have to bring up political topics. And like, it's funny, if you look at my Twitter, you probably think I talk about politics with people like all the time, but I really don't. Like, this is not something that I talk about with people face to face a whole lot. Like, if someone brings it up with me, I have no problem talking about it, but like, I don't boot down the fucking door and go tell people, oh my God, this is my political take. Can you believe this? Look at what Biden did today. Like, nobody cares. Yeah. So why am I going to do that? And the people who do that shit to other people, nobody cares. It's okay. You don't have to have a hot take for everything. You don't have to be outraged about everything at all times.
Yeah. And like,
yes.
No, yeah, it's just goofy. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, there is the NPC aspect, because there are things I say, like I played this fucking game with my followers. Call me a psychopath, but like I can post something about something, and I know exactly what about half of them are going to respond with, because I know they've been trained, like with the word moist or Subaru Outbacks, or like back in the day, Sarah Jessica Parker. Like there are all these people were trained to save. They're trained to save these. It's like very Pavlovian. Like they're trained to say shit, and you're like, you didn't have to fucking say that.
Yeah.
It's just
When you think about like foreign policy stuff, and I don't want to dive too deep on this because obviously we have other stuff to talk about. But like anytime you think about China, you have the whole right side of the political sphere saying Uyghur genocide, TikTok spying on you, the Chinese spy balloon, Chinese fentanyl, and Mexican drug cartels trafficking fentanyl through our border, and like at a certain point, I just like give up engaging with people. And it kind of goes back to diet stuff too. As soon as I say something about seed oils, I'm going to have 15 idiots in my comments saying, oh my God, seed oils are the devil. Or, if you just say anything about gays or anything like that, or the LGBT stuff, then you're instantly going to have groomers. And like, look, I really don't care about gay stuff, but like, to me, it doesn't logically follow. Like some people are saying that like the normalization of gay people automatically means that there's going to be pedophiles, normalized.
The slippery slope of gay marriage is led to all this, and I'm like, no.
I like, okay, I get it. You have a correlation here, but just because gays are allowed to get married, which I'm not really for gay marriage, but it's not something I'm going to go out and fucking protest. I really don't care that much. But like, just because people, gay people are allowed to get married now doesn't mean that they're trying to normalize pedophilia. Like these are two completely different fucking things. I don't think gay people are pedophiles. And like, I noticed all of a sudden this line just kind of came about now. Trans stuff, gay people and lesbians, like all this stuff is like a funnel for pedophilia. It's kind of like the QAnon narrative has gone mainstream almost for a lot of right wingers. And I don't know, it's so fucking weird. And it hits people on a visceral level. So I get it. When you hear people saying they're coming for your kids, like, yeah, absolutely. If somebody came for your kids,
pedophiles wherever they are coming for your kids. They are like the pedophiles are. Yeah.
But it's not the gays or anybody like that. Now, if they say they're coming for your kids, then you have every right to defend yourself and your family. But like to think that there's literally like gay people underneath your kids' beds waiting to like, take them into the closet. Like that's, come on, let's be real here.
Yeah, I've posted about that a million times, like I said, because like all the people I know who are abused are like, one was a conservative grandpa at a ranch. So I'm like, okay, then all those people obviously are pedophiles. So being a conservative rancher obviously means you're going to be a pedophile. I'm like, no, but I understand like, but that's how pedophilia is too. It will tack on. It's like Marxism, and it's part of. I feel like it's all the same thing, right? Where they tack onto these things and they use these institutions and systems to like spread it. And now this pendulum. I don't know, man. If the pendulum goes the other way, we are fucked because.
Yeah, well, you know what, and you bring up good points, and I'm kind of glad you actually brought it to there because I actually did kind of want to talk about this in particular. Is that what nobody wants to talk about is that like whenever you talk about child trafficking or pedophiles, a lot of the stuff is within the family. And it's typically not a stranger coming in the home. It typically is a distant family member. And what people are going to have to accept is that there may be some shitty people close to you who may do some foul shit. And it's not like Jeffrey Epstein or Moloch or Hillary Clinton are coming for your kids. No, it may be one of your family members. And the responsibility is on you to make sure that your kid and the people who mean the most to you are protected. Like that responsibility is on us. It's not on the government. Ron DeSantis ain't going to come around and banish all the pedophiles. I know everybody wanted to say that Trump was rounding up the pedophiles. How'd that go? And not only that, we could talk about his connections with Epstein too, which for some reason the QAnoners never brought up. The pedophilia stuff mostly is within the family, and it's sad, but I mean, the parents enable a lot of the stuff, the bad stuff that all the QAnoners are freaking out about, but they never want to talk about that.
Yeah, or close to home, step parents, babysitters. Like it's at home and close to home. And the sad part is, it is the least most reported because families, for some reason, cover it up. Well, because it's usually been a cycle in the family, right? So they're not going to report it, and that's why it's happening. And like. People don't. That's why I get so mad. Like, yeah, wood chipper these fuckers, but I get so mad because every time I talk about, people bring it up how their like I hear a new story every fucking time of someone in their family abusing them and the family not doing shit, especially boys. Like there's this weird thing where like if a boy was being abused by especially an older woman or like it just like doesn't get, they don't, maybe because boys kind of, it affects them differently than girls, so they think that it's fine almost, you know, like it's,
Yeah,
it just drives me.
People tend to think that, you know, if it's a guy getting sexually abused by like an older woman, then the guy's probably enjoyed it for whatever reason. People tend to think that.
Yeah, one of my best friends, he's like in his 60s now, but he had a babysitter abuse him and then her brother, you know, and but she was 16 and they were like 8, you know, and she was doing stuff to them, and like he's like, at the time, obviously as a young boy, he was kind of stoked about it, right? Like it was affected him differently, but he knows it was wrong and he didn't abuse it, you know, like we talk about it very openly because it's like she was fucking abusing me and her own fucking brother, you know, and doing all this crazy shit. And so it's like I think that's why it doesn't get reported with boys so much, is because, you know, the boys aren't going to be the ones coming up like her, or like they won't show as much mental anguish after it happens to them, whereas a girl will, just because it's just a different kind of a violence. I mean, it's not different, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah. So, well, like men and women obviously interpret sex very differently. So, like, you know, there's the joke of, you know, a key that can fit any lock is a good key, but a lock that could be picked by any, you know, key is a bad lock. Now, I know that's pretty crude, but it's kind of true when you think about it in that respect, where women are a lot more affected because,
we
like,
have to get like actually horny to have good sex, and like,
right? Yes,
that, you know. Sorry,
no, that's okay. Where like the burden for sex for a woman is a lot greater than it is for a man because, you know, well, eggs are expensive, sperms are cheap. So, you know, for a guy to get off is like nothing, but for a woman, it's a lot different. So, and we do in our culture generally kind of view men as disposable, right? I mean, you don't hear anybody ever talking about how the overwhelming majority of workplace deaths, suicides, and all that stuff is at the expense of men, and that, you know, majority of the court settlements when it comes to children go to women, and a lot of the stuff is built on the backs of men. Like you never hear about that. And then even in situations where there's like domestic abuse, if a man calls a cop because his wife's beating the shit out of him, a lot of the time the man will actually get arrested instead of a woman. So, you know, culturally we do view men largely as not only superfluous but also as disposable, because, you know, we've empowered women to such a point that now they don't need men, so women become the men they want to marry instead of, you know, exhibiting womanly traits. And that's not to say that women can't do what men do, but this is just kind of way that we've been trained to view men and women. So, you know, when you hear about boys getting sexually molested, it doesn't have the same kind of impact as it does for a woman, because we understand that women on some level, you know, sex is a lot more expensive emotionally and physically for them as it is, or versus men, where it's not quite as bad. But, you know, we should still be very, very concerned about the boys who are getting sexually assaulted, molested, or, you know, taken advantage of by people who are older and know what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah. I think the saddest part is, and that's why like pedophilia is this demon that, so when it doesn't get reported in the family, okay, well now that victim is more likely to reoffend and be like, this, because it's normal to them. Oh, this is a normal thing that happens where an adult does this. Yeah, it's just sad. And the more it gets, and I see where it kind of was trying to tack on to some of the gay stuff, and like I can see where it's all, but like we can't look at it like that. We can't tribalize it at all. Like pedophilia is pedophilia wherever it is, and it's fucking everywhere. So,
well, and that's the annoying part about it becoming like almost a partisan issue. Where I'm sure you guys remember, like a year ago, it was all Democrats are groomers and pedophiles. It's like, come on, like we cannot have a serious conversation about any of this stuff if you're just going to blanketly label everybody that disagrees with you a groomer and a pedophile. Like, because that's not true. It's kind of like 8 years ago where every Trump supporter and Trump himself was Hitler and Nazis. Like we can't intellectually engage with people if this is how we're going to talk to one another. And are there groomers and, you know, pedophiles amongst Democrats? Sure. Are there Nazis amongst Republicans and Trump supporters? Sure. Is that the majority of them? Absolutely not. Like, I don't understand why people just have to go to a binary extreme immediately where, you know, if I criticize Trump, then, oh, well, you voted for Biden. No, you fucking retard. Come on.
Yeah. Well, and I'm always like, and guess what? Even like an adult male group, like in his older 20s, who's talking to like a 15-year-old girl at Bible camp, which maybe this may or may not happen, and trying to like there's other groomings that happen too. And okay, so he's grooming her to live in a trad conservative lifestyle, which is morally good, right? But it's still fucking grooming, and there's still a weird reason why we're all like, we know why you want, like men are men, like men are pigs, and that's fine. I love that. I'm a pig too. Like obviously you want a young, inexperienced girl because you don't want to be judged as harshly in your sexual, how good you are at it. Like it's so obvious. It's not like negative, but
well, I guess this might be, I don't want to say a prescription, but perhaps a little bit of advice for guys who might be listening. The ultimate form of pre-selection is that you're good in bed, right? So when it comes to being with women, if you're with other women, then obviously the other women that are around you know that you're good with women because you're able to socialize and go out and do activities with women. And this is kind of why, girls will come on to guys if they have a girlfriend or if they have a wedding ring on their hand, is because they know that another woman picked you. And why, like for men, if you have kids, then women find that attractive because that means that you were successful, right? It's pre-selection. Women want a guy that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. that's all there is to it. And no, the trads won't tell you that. They'll tell you that you just need to man up and be a better man of God to get your trad wife. Like, no, women only want that opportunistically when they can no longer get the Giga Chad, the dude in the foam cannon party at spring break in Cancun. Once they can no longer get that guy, then they want Matt Walsh, right? They don't want Matt Walsh for the one night stand, after they just fucking banged a lion out off the toilet seat at the bar up the road.
Yeah. And kind of like going on to that, it was like another topic. Guess what, ladies? If you have a whole bunch of debt you racked up and now you want the trad life where a man takes care of you, guess what, honey? You're still gonna have to work and pay off that debt that you fucking racked up. You can't be coming along now thinking you get the good life because you made all those bad decisions. Just throwing that out there. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, well, and that's once again, it's kind of like the whole come to Jesus moment where, conveniently, as soon as a woman's 29, she can no longer get the Giga Chad dude, or as soon as he no longer wants her, now all of a sudden she wants to become a Christian conservative, and then there's always these dudes who are ready to settle down with her and be the man that stepped up. Right? The guy who took on all her responsibility and took the world onto his shoulders and listened to Jordan Peterson and Matt Walsh and did the right thing and married this hoe once nobody else wanted her. There's going to be those guys waiting for her. And to those guys, I say good luck. But, maybe you should consider not waiting around and, working on yourself a little bit more so that way you can, I like Adam's comment there. So that way you can have your pick whenever you're younger. The reason why my wife is with me is because I, worked my ass off to get to where I am today. And that's not to say that I did it for my wife, but I did it because this is what I wanted. I wanted a good life and I worked my ass off to get it. Other guys should do the same thing, but don't do it with the goal in mind that you're doing this for a woman. Do it with the mind that you're doing it because you want to be a better man for you, right? It's enlightened self-interest where you understand that you can't help other people until you sufficiently helped yourself. That is probably one of the most important things that you could tell really anybody, especially as a guy. Like women aren't going to find you attractive if you're sitting there blowing up their phone and telling them how much you can't wait to see them again and just throwing every last little bit of yourself out there. Like women are going to run away from you. They're going to think you're a fucking creep if you're doing shit like that. Like I don't know why guys think that's a good idea, because women are going to find you absolutely repulsive if you leave them absolutely nothing to figure out about you.
Except mommy. They can tell me they love mommy all they want if they want. They're just kidding.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do too. And I think my wife probably does too.
Well, you find that groove with your person eventually. All right, we're almost at an hour. I want to finish. I just want to say this quote from A-Dubs. He says, displays of fuck trophies begets more fuck trophies.
Yes, that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Yes. Fuck trophies beget fuck trophies.
All right, Kyle, do you have anything you want to plug? Any shows coming up? I'll plug all your stuff too.
Yeah, of course. So thank you guys so much for having me back on. It was fun, absolute honor, and hopefully people learned some shit and took something away. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle Matovcik. That is KyleMatovcik. The band is called A Common Crown that I play, and we're going to be opening up for Vixen in 8 days. Jesus. And we're also going to be releasing our new single Heartless, which is a total fucking ripper. I can't wait for everybody to hear this one. July 10th. So make sure you go to commoncrown.com to find that. You can find me on YouTube. Same deal. KYLEMATOVCIK. The podcast is called In Liberty and Health. All streaming platforms. You can find me. I'm starting to do more live shows. So Forrest, Mommy, and Hex, you guys are always welcome back, and I'd love to do another one sometime soon. But yeah, that's all for me. And like I said, thank you guys for having me back on.
Yeah, no problem. Hex.
All right, first, everyone go support Jessica Fensky for her city council run in Arvada, Colorado. It's still going on. Damn right. As for me, as you see on the screen, Hexcelerate, if you look me up on Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, all of that, I'll show up. Subscribe to me on YouTube and Rumble, especially because I've been kind of inactive with it this past month because I just been fucking beat. But every Thursday and probably every Tuesday and Thursday going forward, I'll be streaming some music. So if you want to watch me make music and chat, tune in for that.
Yeah. And I'm Forrest Mommy, as I said, jessicafensky.com. Later today, if you are a subscriber to Sibling Revelries Locals, which everyone should go subscribe for the low price of $5 a month, I will be, so it'll be 5 o'clock Central, right? 5 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock Eastern. Yeah?
4 o'clock Central.
4 o'clock Central, so 3 o'clock my time. Okay.
Oh, slick.
So we're going to be watching, they do this movie, watch a movie and eat a dinner together where they all pick the same dinner. So we're going to be watching Rushmore tonight. And then we're eating steaks and baked potato and no silverware or utensils allowed. So that'll be coming up in 2 hours then, I guess. So anyways, yeah, otherwise, Forrest Mommy on Twitter and everything else. And thanks again, Kyle. And
Of course.
we'll see everybody later.